When I think about my past, I was like stuck in the identity that the criminal justice system had given me. So I'm only thinking about all of the bad things in my life. This is all I'm thinking about and how I'm overcoming the bad things, right? But like I say, the old poem, it forced me to look back into like some of the good things in my life, right? And so one of the stories that resurrected, I guess you could say, because it was dead, right? It was dead. One of the stories that resurrected was the time where me and my stepfather, so we would go out to Indianapolis and play football in front of his parents' house. And one time he kept throwing me this real long pass. So I'm football, basketball, that's my thing from 7 years old, 8 years old, all the way through my whole life. That's my thing, like I've been doing this my whole life. But he thought, just the beginner stage, so he throwing me this real long pass. And so I'm running, I stand next to him like a 7 or 8 year old wide receiver, right? He'll say, hike, I take off. He'll throw the ball, but I'm looking back in expectation for it to catch the ball, and he done threw it all the way over my head, halfway down the street, right? So I'm like, why you keep doing that? I'm getting mad, I'm getting frustrated. And he looking at me, he like, man, you gotta keep running. You gotta keep running, right? So if I'm mad and frustrated, he getting down, he in my face, he telling me, you gotta keep running. You gotta keep running. So finally I get it, right? I stand next to him, he says hike. He throws the ball, but this time I keep running. I'm halfway down the street, I'm looking at the ball as it soars over my head, and I watch it as it falls into my hands, right? I finally caught the ball. In that moment, me and my father, we had a proud moment. My chin was like this, and he was smiling from ear to ear, right? And so maybe that was like one of those pivotal moments in my life, and I didn't even know it, because today I hold on to it. And I know I hold on to it, and I know I hold on to it, and maybe the reason why I know is because I wrote this poem recently. It's called Keep Running. And it goes like this. It says, I feel like I just ran for a 200-yard touchdown that got turfed around, for a flag on a play, for a false start in my life, for having a bogus blocker by my side, for having too many of the wrong people on the field after God said hike. I'm standing straight up. My fingers are interlocked over my head. I'm huffing and puffing like the government of trying to blow out the blaze of my story. I'm sweating purpose from the crown of my head to the soles of my feet. My heart rate is in heaven. I'm standing at the finish line again. About to run a Hail Mary play by God, and I'ma keep lining up. I'ma keep running. However many plays it takes, however many yards it takes for me to make it to the end zone, for me to touch down with a football field of autonomy in my hands. And so, I feel like maybe, like I said, that was a pivotal moment, and I'm living by it today, and I didn't even know it. With that, I'm all in.
You're running with the ball in your hand now.
You better believe it.
Hi, I'm Nadia Pillay, and I'm here today with one of our Inside Ensemble members, Charles Hill. And we invited Charles Hill as the perfect example of what we are discussing here on this show. Hi, Charles. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Charles, tell us who you are.
Well, I'm a man. I'm a young man who comes from a single parent household. My mom had me when she was 16 years old. I'm from Aurora, Illinois, born and raised. I grew up out there, and I did a lot of good things out there, and I did a lot of bad things out there. But I lived in my humanity in that moment, And now I am someone who has served 20 years in prison. That is my identity for the most part in society. And I am someone who is trying to overcome that identity as someone who is someone's son, someone who is someone's someone's grandson, someone who is someone's father, someone who is someone's cousin, favorite cousins, someone who is someone's nephew, someone who is a mentor to people, someone who is out here striving to live in in a harsh society just like everybody else in the world.
And in these identities that you've mentioned, there's also the identity of artists that you are building.
For sure.
Tell us about that.
I am a made poet. You see it on my shirt, MADE, making advances, destroying excuses. This is something that I created because poetry, well, I've been a poet for essentially my whole life. I just didn't know it. I would write rap songs and do freestyle rap songs and sing songs, and I was even in the church choir for a moment, and I ain't even a good singer, right? But the word poet being put at the end of made kind of came after some education and life experiences where I learned that poetry is something that has helped people for centuries to be able to validate their voice and put their true identity out into the world, to help people see who they truly are, and to, fight for the freedom and the love from the community members of the world that we all deserve.
Tell us a little bit about your artistic process.
My artistic process is one that sometimes is very frustrating, right? Because sometimes the words don't necessarily come to me like how I would like for them to come. But the most powerful part about my artistic process is that I feel like it's time that I spend with God. It's time that I spend having conversations with God about who I am, and who I want to be, and like what it is that I need to be able to be that person, the actions that I need to take, the love that I need to put out, the work that I need to put in, and that's just me kind of like being in that moment of contemplation, thinking about those things and putting it on paper. It's a lot of revision. It's a lot of take this out, put this in. It's a lot of smiles. It's a lot of cries. It's a lot of, like I say, headaches. But at the end, I believe it's a beautiful thing. It's something that has helped me gain a whole bunch of love from people who I would have never thought that I'd been loved by or would have been given love to, right? It's something that helped me gain my freedom.
You mentioned your faith, and so I gather that your faith is part of what inspires you to write. What else is part of your inspiration?
For sure. For me, my inspiration came while I was in prison, right? It came for like my fight for freedom. It came from, so I'll say this, like when you in the courtrooms and things like that, it's a lot of stuff being said about you, right? If you're the defendant, it's a lot of things being said about you, and the messed up thing about that is 98% of the time, none of the words are coming out of my mouth. So it's a lot of times where your voice is not being heard. There was plenty of moments when I sat next to my attorney and I'm telling her that this is not the real story. This is not what really happened. This is not who I am. Or her, I've had multiple attorneys, so him too. And they kind of okay, but we can't say that right now. That can't be a part of it. Or even in the process of being able to come home, the statement of facts of something that happened 20 years ago is not even a complete story, but it still has the title, the statement of facts. And I know for a fact, because I was there that day, that it's not.
And so how do you control your story?
It's through your actions now. it's through my actions and it's through my poetry. And that's like the main thing for me. I know that sounds a little, crazy. I always get like that look when I tell people that poetry is my everything. A lot of people can't help it it doesn't register with a lot of people, right? But for me, that's what it is. It empowered me to go into multiple settings, not just the courtroom, not just, other settings where it's, criminal justice administration that's, judging you, but educational settings, settings for people that I love. One of the first poems that I wrote was for my mom, called Every Day Should Be Mother's Day. And I wrote that poem because from inside of prison, I ran out of things to gift to her for birthdays and Mother Days. And I mean, she deserves a gift every day, but for being my mom. But I ran out of ways to do that, and so I wrote her a poem called Every Day Should Be Mother's Day. And that was followed by multiple poems that I wrote for my beautiful queen. Yeah, so there.
We have you for 3 episodes, and your journey, I should say, is broken up into 3 stages, which is maturation, rehabilitation, and then transformation. You write that maturation wasn't about just getting older. It was the beginning to tell yourself the truth. What was the first painful truth you let yourself see about the young man who took another person's life?
Yeah. Going back into those moments, you don't want to necessarily have to relive the worst thing that you ever did in your life. You know what I mean? And especially if it's not the type of person that you are. And so what it was for me, it was me realizing that I made a choice to be living a lifestyle that I didn't necessarily have to be living. Like, my mom bust her butt to make sure that I didn't have to be running around in the streets and doing a lot of stuff that was like really senseless. Like, that's probably one of the only things that the court ever said about me is that the case was senseless. I made a decision that didn't make any sense, and so I guess it was the hardest part was just realizing that I was acting outside of the person that my mom had raised me to be, and the person that God created me to be on this earth.
If someone had met you at the beginning of your maturation, before rehabilitation began, what might they have noticed changing in you that even you didn't recognize?
I think about this all the time, especially when I kind of developed those things from there while I was laying in a bunk in a prison cell. But one of the first poems, if you don't mind, I'll share it with you, right?
Please.
It's called King Charles, and it goes like this. It says, I call myself a king. Some may say that's an audacious statement, but as a strong black man I am. To people from other ethnic backgrounds, please don't take this as racist. I could go into the history about how they kidnapped us from our tribe and turned black people from royalty into slaves overnight, or how they locked us up in shackles and stored us underneath a ship. But that's a story you've heard before. If you haven't, refer to the root script. Or I can even tell you how I'm conceived from a queen, and so royalty's in my blood like those shots to a fiend, and even though that's a true statement, I won't go into that. But for the record, to call my mother a queen is a definition of a fact. What I will tell you is how I come from the king of all kings. And since God is in me, I have domain of all things. And so when I speak, heaven listens. How you think his will is done? It's because he's working through me. One of his many sons, heaven on earth is mine to have, so I shine like God's light. And when I walk down my path, I strive for God heights. No weapon formed against me ever had a chance to win. Until I meet my Omega, I'm an alpha amongst men. But with this crown comes many obligations. Commander-in-chief of my people, like the president of the nation. The only difference is for mine, I'm frontline, like a leader should be. And that's why I'm your highness. But you can call me King Charles. And you asked the question like, what would people be seeing in me, right? And I really truly believe that, you know, around that time, and I didn't know what was going on around that time. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I did. Like, this concept of maturation, rehabilitation, and transformation comes from a long time of, you know, self-reflection and really, really going all the way back in time from birth, during the times I was in prison, like the times that I was running around in the streets, all of those type of things. And like, but yeah, but people realized was they started to see the peace of God that's in me. That's what started shining through. Just like it's a piece of God in me, it's a piece of God in every other human being that's walking on this earth. And whenever I would be able to like let that part shine out of me, I was able to connect with people, because it's inevitable for like God to be coming together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't always have the words, because when you talk about God and the peace of God in you, is unexplainable, right? But that's the best way that I can explain it. I believe that people started seeing the peace of God in me through the gift that He gave me, that empowered me to be able to put my voice out into the world with confidence and boldly and with love.
And do you see that peace of God in you?
Absolutely. I do see that peace of God in me. But I'm human, right? So, you know, I do see my humanity too. A lot of times when we talk about humanity and people seeing it in one another, we talk about it like it's the good part of us. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. You know, I feel like that may be the imperfect part of us. And the perfect part of us is the part of us that God so graciously decided to plant inside of us to do His work on earth.
Is there anything else you want to share about this journey of maturation?
I think that, yeah. I think that for maturation, I just think that it's important that, you know, people know that this is something that happens inside of everybody, right? Maturation, not just everybody, inside of everything that God created. You can think about flowers, you could think about animals, and you can put us humans. Anything that God created started in a space where it was a seed, right? And then it grew into something slowly but surely, and not always. I'm guaranteeing that the thing or the person that's growing knows exactly what's going on, right? But they just going with the flow of God, with the flow of the universe, and slowly they start figuring that thing out, figuring out what it is that God put you here for, what it is, what reasons did you make choices in your past.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to me, that's what maturation is. It's just the natural state of growth that we all got to go through.
And what I'm getting from this is that this maturation is bringing you back to you reclaiming your stories, so that through your words, your poetry, you get to tell new stories.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and you getting it right. Like, I wrote so many poems in the maturation stage. Like, I could just go on and on with the poems. Most of my poems came in the maturation stage. I tell people that I believe, like, the ones that I remember, the ones that, like, stick to my brain, came from the maturation stage. And that was because that was a moment where I was getting to know myself. I wrote love songs to my girl, you know. That's poetry. For me, that was poetry. I wrote songs to my mom. I wrote songs about old stuff that I was doing and why I was doing it, or why I felt like I was doing it. I wrote poems about a lot of things. I wrote poems for my kids who I left, you know, when I left. I have a 21-year-old young lady, Anaya, and a 19-year-old son, Elijah. I wrote poems for them. And I wrote poems that were empowering for myself. And then when I shared them me being somebody who has not always been, I'm still not someone who's able to stand in front of people and, comfortably. It's always them nerves and that type of thing that come, right? But I was able to share because it's like he transformed. And even in that moment, I didn't even know it until somebody or, something else, that people were receptive of the poetry. I wrote love poems for other people's girlfriends. You know what I mean? And people would this is a true story. Like, I would sit down and listen, be an active listener, something that I learned later on in my life. And they would tell me their stories, and I would hear, and I would, interpret it from the love that's inside of me, the peace of God that's inside of me, and I would give it to them. And they would give me hugs and handshakes and love me for that, because it was me empowering their voice, using my gift from God again to put love into the world.
We are so excited to have you for these next few episodes and to learn more about your journey as far as rehabilitation and then transformation. So thank you so much for coming into the studio today, and we look forward to the next 2 episodes.
Absolutely. And appreciate you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
Emerge, something like that maybe, yeah. Black poets of the past emerge from the black holes of the universe. That way it sounds more like a little chant almost.
Great.
Let me know when you guys are ready.
Rolling.
Black poets of the past emerge from the black holes of the universe to commune with God and I in a prison cage, on a mission to guide the emission of poetry with a thought of words that will form constellations and lead the people to freedom. God said, the immortality of a poet's voice looks death in the face daily. Phyllis agreed. Langston said, but the oppressor doesn't have another option but to feel the supernatural vibrations of your decrees. Audrey prophesied, your whispers will play a role in the abolition of this oppressive institution. June flashed a mystical smile while adding, the system will pay restitution for the time it has spent dishonoring experience of black American lives. Maya looked me in my eyes and commanded that I rise. Suddenly, gravity pulled them back into their space of peace, but the potency of their words remained with me. Then I heard Eminem and Jay-Z declaring on a godsend beat booming from a distant cage, I'm a motherfucking renegade. I'm a motherfucking renegade. And you will honor what the fuck I'm finna say by remaining standing until I say you can sit down. Your Honor, with your bogus ass, you should be ashamed of the way you abuse your state-appointed discretion. You're the motherfucker who really needs the Department of the Corrections for the shots you shoot with your automatic tongue as you assassinate the black and the young while you smile in the people's face, regurgitating a lie that your objective is to keep the people safe. I got so much I want to say. And my time of being coerced into remaining silent are over, because now I know the power of my voice. I'm sentenced to death by incarceration. The system had left me with no other choice but to say aloud, I'm a motherfucking renegade. I object to any vote that says you deserve to sit on the bench. Your black robe is what needs to be lynched, not another black body that could be used as a vote against your lack of honor. Yeah, I'm a motherfucking renegade. And this unrestricted alliteration is just a taste of me letting the people know that your honor is one of the many stains on this system's flawed concept of justice that have intoxicated your honor with political power that enables you to perpetuate your unhealthy, murderous habits without any remorse or reluctance. Hey.
Okay, this is another poem that I wrote in the maturation stage, and it's a poem that talks about change and how, coming from the culture that I came from, sometimes it kind of goes against the grain to change. You're considered to be fake, and like you're abandoning the struggle, but sometimes, most times, change is good. So this poem is called I'll Never Change. It says, I'll never change. That saying is complex because change is evolution, the gateway to what's next, and to evolve is to live, so I'm always changing. But sometimes change is not real, so I live by this saying. I will never change unless it makes me better than how I came. Lord knows I've seen so many things, but I'll never change. I done seen a lot and I've been through some things. Had a few nightmares while I chased my dreams. Came through some that could've ended me. All praise to my Lord, 'cause that's who defended me. People change a lot, like seasons do. Swear that they be with you, end up leaving you. Be gone like your breath if life is leaving you. Swear that they be real, but they deceiving you. My niggas changed, some family too. Or maybe they just showed a side that I never knew. If that's the case, then change is something I gotta do. 'Cause sometimes to grow in life, gotta change the people surrounding you. And I know that some will get left behind. That's probably 'cause they're not searching for what I am trying to find. I will never change unless it makes me better than how I came. Lord knows I've seen so many things, but I'll never change. I will never change unless it makes me better than how I came. Lord knows I've seen so many things, but I'll never change.